Okay, so it's been a week. I've been recovering from illness, which is why it took so long to get this out. But one and all, welcome back to the channel for our review of the Garrison LAN, which was the Hamburg, Germany LAN hosted by Being Esports that featured Age of Empires 2, some Age of Empires 4 on the side, some Age of Mythology on the side. A lot going on there. Yes, this will be uploaded to YouTube, so say hello. I think the chat box has disappeared somewhere. There you go. You guys can be there. Not very viewable. But we're going to go through this piece by piece. We listed it off. I'll mark it in green as we pass it. So we'll open up with the easy thing. Hotel and venue. So pretty standard kind of stuff happening there. We had the Ibis hotels that were really close to the venue. Venue was only like a 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk maximum. We done it at the Experion venue, which was like this gaming arena at the absolute top of a shopping market in Germany, downtown. Really nice place. Lots of space. We had, I think it was about 100 PCs available for the side events, and then obviously had the main stage area at the other end of the event. You had a bar on tap with all the beer you could ever need, plenty of food. Oh my god, the German waffles were so good. But getting there was easy, travel was easy, the Hamburg airport wasn't too far apart. It's my first time in Hamburg. I will say this, oh my dear god, the homeless people. There were so many homeless people. I was kind of shocked. I think the only other place I've been where like it was that bad was Vancouver. There were a lot of people like living on the streets. Like we had a dodgy moment as well. I remember me and Tristan were kind of paranoid because like a guy was like, "Yo, you got any money?" And we're like, "Nope." And the things he was doing, flailing in like frustration, we thought he was going to attack us. Luckily he didn't. It was all good. Like we were saying, it's such a weird feeling as well in those moments. You're like, you're ready to defend yourself, but like you want to make sure that like they are actually trying to attack you. Otherwise you just beat up a homeless person, which is never a good look. But you know, the venue itself, let's talk a little bit more about it, I think it was decent for what it was, but like in hindsight, it would have probably been nice to have had something that wasn't as stringently reliant on certain German laws, which made it super expensive. It was a gaming venue at the absolute top of a shopping mall, which has a certain level of cost to it when it comes to things like security, etc. Like, I kid you not, what you guys don't know is the cost that went into this. Like, when things had to stay open late, past the normal, like, open phase, the overtime for security was insane. On the Saturday, when Being Esports hosted a pub quiz and a, like, stay open until 3 a.m. type thing, every hour past, I think it was 11 p.m., was the equivalent of a day rate for each security guard. So they were paying through arse and elbow in those, like, final hours. Talking about Being Esports themselves, I love these guys, man. Like, they have a lot of passion, a lot of heart. They have a lot of experience as well. For those that don't know, these guys do a lot of white label type stuff around PUBG. They've done events with the Rara LAN, the Warcraft crew, a few times in the past. And they also host, like, the Dota 2 German leagues, the Dakar leagues, for example. They just had a new league get resurrected. So they have a decent amount of experience behind them. They're still learning at the same time. They're not your ESL type production. They're grassroots, but with experience, they want to put to good work, and I love that. And also what I love from these guys is their receptiveness to any changes. I remember I came in almost like a hunky-dory dude out of nowhere with like all this experience, I've been all these lands, and they wanted to hear it. They wanted to hear like feedback. It was always refreshing to have, because I think, you know, for some hosts, they don't really want to like inject themselves into helping make the show better, but I want to try to use those skills to help them out, and they were more than willing to hear that out. I love their passion. Honestly, the reception by the Age of Empires 2 community to Gideon was impressive. Tried to do what I could to like hype it up, but I didn't really need to. He took to the stage magnanimously. People loved him. They adored him. No doubt about it, they're going to want to be involved in Age of Empires, hopefully 2 and beyond more. And I think the community had the right attitude about them as well. You know, someone that was really interesting, and we'll talk about a little bit with them, is the Age of Empires 2 community. Because they don't get like these big lands very often, these big opportunities, I think they're insanely grateful when they do. Same with all like these smaller niche communities, because they aren't dealing with like 4 or 5 lands a year, any land means the world to them, and they try to go above and beyond to make it as special as possible. Now, the AoE 2 community was phenomenal. Like, I gotta give these guys credit. Really had a good time with them. The crowd was incredible. So some people I think were negative online, and big shout out to those like defended me. Apparently T90 was telling people to just screw off and leave in his chat. Who were being like that. I think I saw like Masmora defending me in like a Reddit thread. because some people didn't like how loud I was. We'll get to that more, but like the community in person deserved that loudness from me to hype them up, because they were insanely hype. I think the comment I had is that crowd may have looked small, but the noise coming out of them in the arena was 6 times the size. They really went above and beyond to make it special. And I think also the players and casters, like once again, you can tell this is a tight-knit community. They don't get these type of events that often. It means the world to them when they do. And I think the matches delivered. Oh my god, guys. If you haven't watched AoE 2 before, like, I recommend doing it. It was my first experience sitting down so thoroughly to watch it, and I really did enjoy it, between like the headaches and in and out of consciousness. Had a really good time with it. We ended up with some insane matches along the way. We had a match where Hera said it's probably the best thing he's ever going to do in his competitive career. That was the King Snipe. Phenomenally hype. And then the Grand Finals almost delivered the best Grand Finals I think Age of Empires 2 ever had. The only way it would have been better is if Leary had won in that deciding game number 9, because for those that don't know, Leary, although he has 2 Wallows to his name, those are early Wallows in the most recent years, it's been back-to-back defeats in second place. Like, he's probably the most consistent second place player in Age of Empires 2 history, full stop. But between them, they delivered an insane bout back and forth. You know, now there's a concern it might be actually the closest Hera ever comes to losing, because he was ill, he was in the middle of Ramadan, so he's fasting, and he still manages to maintain it. He's now 11 win streak across S tier events, which is phenomenal. So let's talk a little bit about the broadcast, because there's some things that came up here. So, you know, broadcast-wise, I think we had a nice basic flow of things. We knew what we wanted to do with the show. We had some very long days in there. Somehow, second day, I think, wasn't the longest. We went even longer than that. We had days that were like 9 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours. This is to be expected. It happens a lot on LANs no matter what, because you're trying to cram it all into one. There are exceptions. Some broadcasts won't run as long. What comes to mind is Red Bull Wallow, when they were doing it in Germany at least, is I know they like to focus on this idea that they were going to do only so many hours a day, because overtime was so expensive and they had to budget for it, right? Hence why sometimes you'd get the games shoved off onto the community side instead, just to keep within a rotation. Whereas, like, obviously for being esports, they're like, we'll just front the cost. We'll just go deep in, which was crazy. In terms of things that happened, though, we had huge technical issues the first day. We were really late starting. It's unfortunate, but, you know, I always say get it out of the way day one. One thing that did hit us as the days went on was audio. I think you guys probably heard it if you listened to me on stage. The audio was not good. The problem is that we had a microphone. You guys might have seen it. It was a face microphone. Now, these type of microphones aren't designed for stage environments. They are designed for very quiet studio environments in a room, just people talking and recording. It was unfortunate because we had our audio guy, I think, was ill, so he wasn't there at first, so we had someone else sorting that, and it didn't come to their mind. It didn't come to my mind at the time. So every time I'd scream, make some noise, or I'd hype up the players to come in, cuts. Like, the audio would just cut out. It was terrible. It was ripping at people's ears. I know a lot of people who were watching at home had negative opinions of me because of it. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things that we didn't really think of. We fixed it in the final day, and we switched over to a hand microphone, which is what you should have. If you look at most stage hosts, they'll use those. I just kind of was rolling with it at the time. I was like, oh, I guess they must have sorted something with this microphone that makes it make sense. They didn't. It would just rip out all the time. I remember it almost became a meme when we're like, oh, KP has said Hera too hypely. No audio. So yeah, it was a little bit rough for that. The other thing that was rough, I think we could have done a better job of prepping content. So someone I was honest with Gideon about is like, in future, probably worth flying me out a day early. I'm happy to help with these things, figuring out things we can pre-record things, the histories of the players, talking about them, etc. Because we just didn't really have that. We did try to do that a little bit on the final day. We prepped something in the morning, and I was surprised they were even willing to, because I think like it's dangerous to do that less than 24 hours before a show, so you can check everything. Sadly, we'd done a great job of recording the stuff, but the producer didn't like put it in the flow right. So we're meant to open with the hype reels with me talking over, and that was going to be free flow in the moment. I was willing to do that, but we literally like had the order out of flow because the guy hadn't gone for it beforehand. The only other thing that comes into mind is I think on the producer side, and I've already told them this is feedback, it's no secret. Usually I am used to more comms from back end because I see me in production as a team and I want to know what they want us to direct towards next. I think with this guy, he was really focused on keeping comms in ear into a minimal because most of the people in Age of Empires 2 do not like having things yelled in their ear, was my understanding. So it's almost like from a scene perspective and what he's used to and what the scene is used to, he doesn't want to be saying these things to throw them off. Whereas I had to keep trying to encourage him to. Like, another thing would be he'd like mute me, so when I'm trying to calm him, I have to go see him, because most people wouldn't mute their packs, but I'm used to muting my pack to be thoughtful. Also, it's just a good idea, because if you need to go for a pee and someone has hot mic'd you, nothing like an arena just hearing zip, blop, 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 blop. So wanted to avoid that. To my performance though. So some things I won was not happy with. We'll go through these. I tried something new with the hype on the announcement. So it'd be like, hero type thing. I've never really done that before. I'm usually more an affirmative type person. You know, like for example, welcome to the stage, PSG, LGD, right? Which in hindsight, I still think I prefer that. I think I won't go for like the elongated stuff. There is very rare situations where it makes sense, but I was like, let's see if something's useful from like darts or whatever, whether like champion of the world, or maybe do the champion of the world thing, but I wouldn't do it with the names. I think that also just exacerbated the audio issues. It made it much worse than it appeared, because we were elongating like that. The other thing was we done the desk and the stage host. That was a very interesting dynamic. So a few things we had to get around. When I got there, I straight away dove into the dynamics between me and Jordan, because those that caught the show, they would have seen that Jordan was doing a more deep dive analytical review of the games. So he would sit there and he would go through what they had done in game 1, game 2, game 3, talk about the process with the players. I wanted to avoid stepping on that, hence why I kept my questions away from that area, because I don't want to take away from the deep dive of Jordan's content. Otherwise, you have a double lapse. It's the same reason why you should never really have a panel feature the person who's just casting, because they'll give you the same thoughts again. So you want to keep it fresh. So with that in mind, I was darting back and forth between the stage and the desk to do those. I think we handled that pretty damn well. Only thing would obviously be, once again, the microphone packs and what we done on stage. Losers interviews was something suggested by me. I will jump on this sword right now. I know some people don't like loser interviews. I'm a big believer that when loser interviews are done correctly, they can be a phenomenal part of the show. The key thing when you do loser interviews is you need to approach it with an emphatical, I believe is the term, mindset. You need to really think about what the player's going through and give them the means to channel their feelings in a way that doesn't feel cringe or exploitative. Now, on this event, I think we've done a reasonable job of that. We didn't have a time to always be continuous to the loser interviews because of the flow of the day. Because if I am on stage, but then I'm on desk and back and forth, I can't always be there. You want to keep the flow right. So, for example, end of days, we usually didn't do loser interviews. And we felt good about that because usually we ended the day with like upper bracket or whatever. And the idea was we at least wanted people to have one interview. So people like Kingston, who went out early, had their time to talk to the fans, talk to everyone home. I think people were maybe a bit bummed out we didn't talk to Leary on the finals, even though he played an incredible series. But once again, like, another big part when it comes to losing interviews being done properly is a very emotionally charged environment. If you're going to do them, I'm a very big fan of giving someone 15, 20 minutes at least in a quiet room somewhere for them to process their feelings, channel it, and reset before they come and talk to you. We didn't really have the environment to do that, hence why we wanted to be careful about where we use them. I think it would have been cool to have had Leary's part at the moment, but with all the moving parts, last second, and adjustments to show, I didn't want to rush it. And I think the losers interviews added a layer to the cake that was missing because we just didn't have the additional content. Like I said, it comes back to content pre-prep. In an ideal world, we have like these extra interviews happening. I think if I could go back and change something, it would have been actually great to interview the players when they were sitting down or getting ready to sit down on stage and ask them one or two things. I really like that positioning. But I think losers interviews are never an easy thing to do. If you as an interviewer and in your environment have the right space and mindset, they can be a valuable addition to a show because they give an opponent, a person an ability to build their brand and build their image within the scene in a way that they otherwise wouldn't. We always ask players beforehand if they wanted to. We never forced interviews on people. And I always said to the guys, and they were really thoughtful about it, the Being Esports guys are like, when you approach them, you need to really emphasize this is not mandatory, it's not required, is if they want to do it, right? Because we don't want to be forcing people to do something they don't want to do. It's a horrible situation, and that's when loser interviews suck. What did suck is my health. We had a rough time here, guys. I had the worst flu I think I've ever had in the history of being in esports, at least, most definitely, I felt bad. And oh my God, every single day when I thought I'd feel better, it felt worse. So like, there was one day where I started the day wearing my Gunner glasses and I switched because I thought I had the wrong prescription because I was getting headaches. The headaches were not because of that. It was because of some sort of flu or whatever. And every single day, it would get worse towards the end. There was one exception. I think it was day number 2 when my energy levels actually went like this. So at the end of the day, I was like, I'm ready. Let's keep going. But, you know, I get back to the hotel and I would be laid up, sweats. You know, I'd soak my bed from that much sweating. I did not feel great. Headaches. I like would try to get intermittent naps. A really big shout out to Roxy, Hera's partner. Without her, I would not have survived, I don't think. She had medication on hand. She even had specific medication for someone that I have that was causing really, really bad heartburn. A lot of people still were like, you were ill? I was like, yes, very, very ill. We hit it very well. I was especially getting worried in the final day because I think the thing I said is I'm going to look like I've got a cocaine addiction because obviously like runny nose and whatever, and I'm rubbing it and like we're getting redder and redder, and they didn't have a makeup artist at this event, which is fine for the most. I think it definitely helps in the lights. But because we didn't have a makeup artist, I'm like, I need to be very careful to not like rough my nose up too much, or I'm gonna be on stage, I'm gonna look like a coke addict. So we done a good job of avoiding that. We like, you know, clear nose and whatever at the right time, got on stage. Luckily didn't have this moment where I'd just be like, you know, dripping snot everywhere and looking like I'm about to cry or whatever. The crazy part is how things just got worse. Like once we were done with finals day, I was like, nice, let's just get home. I woke up in the morning, empty stomach, didn't feel great, barely had slept, sweats again, but like I kind of felt okay. And then as I traveled home, it just got worse and worse and worse. Like I had people on the train that were asking me if I was okay. I was like, I must look like a tweaker or something. I must look like I'm an addict, like going through withdrawal. So I did not have a good time the last few days. Hence why we didn't immediately hop into streams. Hence why we didn't immediately hop into this. I wanted to try and just get mostly better. I'm feeling a lot better now, thankfully. But yeah, the worst illness I've ever had on an event by far. So there's some things to address though outside of this. Age of Empires 4. So first of all, really, really awesome matches. I saw the lighting setup. There was definitely some big issues to be learned from there. The lighting was not adequate for the stream. It kind of looked like we were in a depressing dark hole in the corner. These are things that I know Rising Empires are aware of. I think we had some epic matches within there. No one really expected Louis to come through like that. I didn't. I thought Louis might crack under the pressure of his first event on LAN. He done phenomenally well, and I can tell you guys, Louis is a wonderful person. Smile on his face. He just looked so giddy and happy. Just a kid who wanted a game. It was really nice to finally get to meet him. Really positive force. I hope we see more of him on LANs. Really, really shocked that he actually came to that LAN because those that know, AoE4, like the presence of the players, the travel, the hotels, etc., were not paid for by the TO, as should not be expected. So yeah, it was crazy to see him come all the way from China. About my involvement, there had originally been ideas about trying to get me to come in for like a guest cast, but I think organization wasn't really there. Also, me feeling ill would have made it impossible anyway. But also the big goal, and I know people are already going to have the question, why weren't we live on this channel? We were meant to be. So really dig into that. With the Twitch side, there were some things that were handled in a way that we were not happy with. So like Emma made me aware and I wasn't aware at first, and I had a look and I went, if it keeps being this bad, just change the key and we'll be out of it. Because there were a few things I wasn't happy with. So like, we literally had a stage where I checked in on the stream to see how things were going. And I think, yeah, the whole stream was just frozen. It had been frozen for an hour, right? And also the stream had been late going live. Like Rising Empires and BC was live for like 2 hours by then. And mine was live for 45 minutes. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So like, Kyle was sitting across from me chilling. I'm like, Kyle, what the hell's this? And he like rushes off to try and fix it. But I'm like, this should be thumbs up, secured, checked on beforehand, right? Like, my mindset is quite simple going to this. I didn't expect to hit new peak numbers from restreaming the event. I wanted my community to be able to view it in an ad-free viewing experience, to be part of it. I wanted to help build the hype around the event, get the numbers bigger so we come back again. What I'm not willing to do is compromise my stream's quality level and also completely eviscerate my viewership metrics like that. It was in my opinion, just unreasonable the way that was handled. We're talking having a literal L frame. On the L frame is like, where it goes part of the stream. On the screen, which is telling people to check out another stream. So you have mutually made the viewership experience on my channel worse and advertised a different channel. That is in bad spirit, and I'm not okay with that. That annoyed the crap out of me. On top of that, I went above and beyond to try and set up YouTube live streams for them to go live. They didn't use them. They didn't even communicate they weren't going to use them. It wasn't until like day 2, and I have people DMing me going, hey, when are you going live on YouTube? I had to go check with Cal. I'm like, is this just not happening? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, it would have been nice to know. So I take them down, but I've still now lied to people, deceived people. Same with like being live on Twitch. And like, here's the thing. I know some people are going to give this hoo-ha of like, but Rising Empires ran the event. Of course they want themselves to have the best broadcast guys. No, like, Being Esports didn't take this logic, and it worked good for them. Being Esports event across all channels peaked at over 47,000 people watching because they let people view where they want, how they want. They put everything on equal footing. They even went above and beyond that and set it up so that if Dave or T90 or whatever wasn't on a set and they wanted to cast over, they could actually just hop on camera and take over their own stream as a watch party. The point here is, if you were talking about like as a live stream experience, I'd understand why you want all the viewership on one channel. It does not matter as a tournament organizer, and here's why. As a tournament organizer, you're going to collate the data from all entry points of viewership. Beastie stream, my stream, Dumus if you had it, wherever else. You're going to collate that all into an average viewership, max viewership. We'll give you the rundown, we'll give you the viewership numbers, and then you put that in a pitch deck and you go and look for sponsors. So this whole like griefing someone else's presence on the broadcast it makes no sense. It was anti-participatory, and it makes me, and I guarantee others, not want to participate and help out in the future, which is a big negative and exactly the opposite of what Nilly and World's Edge would want. I was there offering to just do these extra things because it wasn't even they approached me. I was like, do you want my channel so you have more reach? Do you want my chat? I had to push for it. And then when I pushed for it, like I said to you guys, I didn't expect to have my channel like hit new peak viewerships. I expected my numbers to be lower than when I'm at home. But when they are so much lower because the stream is crashing on my channel only, like every hour or two, or I'm live late, or I have this giant thing eating up half the screen, making the viewership experience worse on my channel than another, I'm not helping you anymore. So I remember I said to Emma, I was like, you've got eyes on it. I haven't, and I fully support her. Like, I was leaning that way. Is like, if there's another error or whatever, change the key. And there was. So that, I hope that explains it. I don't feel good about it having to be that way. But what am I to do in that situation, right? Like, my take stands at what I said a little bit earlier. If you take someone's key and you take someone's channel and you do someone on their channel, you should feel obligated to deliver an equal experience. Because you're screwing with my livelihood, right? Like the aftermath of me now doing that on my channel, if I'd done it even more days and they kept having tech issues or whatever, and I'm like averaging, say, 100 people instead of the 250 that I probably should have, it makes my life harder now to go get sponsorships from AMD, from Opera, whatever. They'll lowball me, or they won't offer at all. So it has a negative knock-on. But I think it's what annoys me the most is if this had been handled correctly, like it was with Age of Empires 2, it is an overall win. Like, we're talking like Age of Empires 2, Gamer Legion went live on their YouTube, 2,000 people watched. That's 2,000 extra people for Being Esports to have reached for future sponsors to get value from that wouldn't have been there otherwise. If they had decided to go live on Gamer Legion's channel and put an L frame in there saying, check out our main broadcast, oh, honey, no, you'd have problems. In fact, the only time you saw them try to get people to activate on their primary was saying, look, we're giving away merch, but we have to give it away on our primary. And that's understandable. But I think a lot of this is like unavoidable, and I really hope they learn. I think watch party type stuff is very helpful. It's a negative when you're trying to like just build a channel from a like viewership standpoint as an influencer. But when you're running events and you have a clean feed, which is going out on all these other channels, like making a different channel a more negative experience is not a justifiable cause or reason. But yeah, hopefully that kind of summarizes that. I know we spent quite a lot on AoE4 because that was like brewing up in me. It needed to be addressed. Very frustrating experience there. Outside that, like looking back at the event, I really hope we do get more synergy events. I'm hoping Being Sports is going to be able to come back. I'm going to try to help them find additional sponsors because it'd be cool to have them back and have maybe 4, etc. be part of the overarching experience. My take is that these type of events, these hybridized events or these packaged events are a much smarter way for the entire ecosystem of Age of to be marketed. I think that ideally you build a little bit closer to like, you know, more equality, not just like side events, but that depends on the TO. But the logic, why these are so important, it keeps costs down to get bulk on events, right? People who watch AoE 2 probably don't watch AoE 4. There is some overlap, right? Like me, but not many people. But the reality is, in terms of like budgeting and affordability, by having multiple events happen under one location, it's what DreamHack does so well. They'll have like 5 or 6 different tournaments happening because the cost doesn't inflate drastically. It's not a 6x cost for 6 tournaments. It's almost like a 2.5x cost for 6 tournaments. And if you can get extra viewership in, excuse me, in these different environments, you can justify the cost and you can actually sell up to sponsors. So I actually hope Being Esports is going to come back. I hope we do see them involving Form, Myth, etc. I'm still a big fan of the idea that Microsoft just takes control of like a World Cup series type of event that happens once a year, that has all the games present there, kind of like what Red Bull's been fulfilling instead. And then you have, you know, like top 4, top 8 on LAN, you go for it. You might even have some players who try to play in multiple ones. But yeah, I think we should get more of these type of events. I think that with the size of the scene of AoE 2 for all these games, going for stadium level events where you fill out doesn't make as much sense. You want to start off smaller and start grassrooted. One of the biggest mistakes we're seeing a lot of esports scenes make at the moment is they're shifting towards this idea that they want to be in the big stadium and they want to be detached. They want to seclude the players. The reality is actually what esports needs to do right now is get more in touch with its roots. Like we saw the impact that can have. The money that Gideon was able to happily, easily extra raise towards the cause, getting several thousand coming in donations. We saw Age of Empires 4's prize pool blow from, I think it was 1 or 2K at one stage, up to 10. You know, it shows you that the community can be involved and you want to activate in a way that lets them be involved. Because aiming for these big stadiums is cool in theory. Trust me, I've been there. They're epic. You soak in them. But if they're not earned along the way by building towards it, they can become incredibly unsustainable. So yeah, once again, really big shout out to Being Esports for taking an expensive but hopefully sustainable route. I'll be trying to help them to see if we can make it happen, get more events happening. I think from Microsoft's side, it must have looked like a decent success on viewership, etc. So fingers crossed they find more fun in the future. But guys, let me know what you think of this. We're approaching like a half an hour long. I don't know if we dragged this out a bit. I think we spent a lot of time talking about 4, but like I felt a necessity to address that. I think Being Esports done a great job on their show. Some of them, like, you know, within their specific roles, being first time in that role, you wouldn't think they were. They were heroes for sure. And I cannot give them enough praise. On the AoE 4 stuff, though, I just felt this really big necessity to like address it because I feel really bad. I made you guys promises about like this, you know, the channel will be live. You better catch the content here. And I'm really mad with myself and others that we weren't able to achieve that. So my apologies again. But guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you comment down below on your opinion on the events, your feelings and everything. And let me know what you want to see in these type of post-LAN reviews. Was there something missing here that you want to hear more from me on? Let me know, and I'll catch you all in the next chapter.